Hey y'all, it is Sean of Math Swap Tutoring. And in this video, I'm going to talk about operations with positive and negative numbers. So let's write that down. All right, so operations with positive and negative numbers. And this is one of several Algebra 1 related videos that I have on the Math Swap Tutoring YouTube page. So just make sure that you subscribe to Math Swap Tutoring's YouTube page. It's just that simple. All right, so let's keep in mind when we talk about positive numbers, a positive number is a number that is greater than 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on and on and on. A negative number is a number that is less than 0. So that means -1, -2, -3, on and on in the negative direction. Okay. So that's what we're talking about here. And also, when we talk about positive and negative numbers, really these are referred to as real numbers. You have two main types of numbers: real numbers and imaginary numbers. So real numbers are the numbers basically that you're just used to. All the integers, all the decimals and fractions, all that kind of stuff. An imaginary number is a number that's created when you take an even root of a negative number, and you don't have to worry about that in this video because it is not at all what we're talking about. All right, so operations, just in case you don't remember, what do you mean operations? That's just plus, minus, multiplication and division, plus and minus, addition and subtraction. So, all right, anyhow, so let's keep on going. So when you are performing operations with real numbers, with positive and negative numbers, keep these following rules in mind. All right, so first of all, let's go, let's take this in mind right here. Number one, oops, hold on one second. All right, so number one is this. When you are adding non-zero numbers with the same sign, that means both of the numbers are positive or both of the numbers are negative. Then you add their absolute values and assign their common sign to the answer. So what is that? What is that saying? All right, so say that you want to add 2 plus 3. First of all, 2 is positive, 3 is positive. They have the same sign. All right, so what we're gonna do is add their absolute values. So that means we're gonna do this right here. We're gonna add their absolute values. And remember, the absolute value of a number is how far away that number is from 0, okay? And you can very easily see that with a number line, which I'll draw here. So, so the absolute value of 2 is just 2 because it's 2 away from 0. The absolute value of 3 is 3 because it's 3 away from 0. Okay. All right. So that ends up just being simply 2 plus 3, which is 5. And assign the common sign to the answer. Both of these are positive. So this 5 is positive as well. That's kind of like duh, but it's more easily, the point of this is more easily seen whenever you use like negative numbers. So say you wanted to add -2 plus -3. So we're going to take the absolute value of each of these numbers. So that's absolute value of 2 plus the absolute value of 3. Now the absolute value of -2 is also 2 away from 0 if you look at it on a number line. So that ends up being 2 plus the absolute value of 3, which is just 3. And so that is 5. Now assign the common sign of negative to the answer. So -2 plus -3 is -5. Okay. So just let me illustrate this too. And you can do this perhaps as you get more used to everything. So let's say you had this number line here. Okay. And let's say you you start at -2 and you wanted to add -3. So to add -3 is basically you're just adding in a negative direction. So that's -1, -2, -3. So you should be able to get to a point where you see -2 plus -3 is -5. You can also say -2 minus 3, 1, 2, 3 is -5. So, but that kind of skill to be able to see that without having to add the absolute values and all that, that'll come with time. All right, let's keep on going. I'm going to erase all of this right here because I don't really want to, I think I want to keep my heading. All right. Let's see. All right, let's go on to rule number 2. And by the way, if you are a subscriber to Math Swap Tutoring, then you can find all of these notes that I make available only for my subscribers. mathswaptutoring.com/subscribe. I try to remember to mention that again later. Now, rule number 2, when adding non-zero numbers with opposite signs, that means one is positive, one is negative, subtract the one with the lesser absolute value from the one with the greater absolute value. Then assign the sign of the number with the greater absolute value to the answer. If the two numbers happen to have the same absolute value, then the answer is 0. All right. So say, for example, again, that you have 2 and 3, but 2 is positive, and then you're adding a -3. So you see these signs are opposite. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract the one with the lesser absolute value from the one with the greater absolute value. So this has the greater absolute value, and we're going to subtract the one with the lesser absolute value. Oops, that's not, let me see, undo that and draw absolute value line. So the absolute value of -3 is 3, minus absolute value of 2 is 2. So that's 1. And then we're going to assign the sign of the number with the greater absolute value. 3 is the number with the greater absolute value. So, and it's negative. So we assign a -1 there. So therefore 2 plus -3 is -1, you see? And so again, let's look at that on the number line to kind of see. Let's see, let's say that you have, so you have 2, and then you add -3. So that's 1, 2, 3 in a negative direction. As you see, it is indeed -1. So when you have a number that is bigger in the positive or negative direction, the answer is going to be those absolute values, that the one with the greater absolute value minus the one with the lesser absolute value, and then assign the sign of the one with the greater absolute value. If two numbers happen to have the same absolute value, so say, for example, you're doing 2 plus -2, then the answer is 0. So you can kind of see that here. So if you take the absolute value of 2 minus the absolute value of -2, that's just 2 minus 2, which is just 0. All right, good. Let's keep on going. Let's keep this going. I'm going to erase it all. I don't need to have all that stuff right here. All right, the next one is as follows. All right, let's see. So this says the sum of 0 and any number is that number. So that's pretty self-explanatory. 0 plus anything is that anything. 0 plus 1 is 1. 0 plus 2 is 2. 0 plus 48,096 is 48,096. That's pretty easy. So we'll just keep that one going because that's Pretty self-explanatory. All right, let's go to this next one right here, number 4. This says when subtracting two numbers, add the opposite of the second number to the first number, and then apply the rules that we have already talked about. So say, for example, we had 6 minus 4. So we're subtracting two numbers, 6 minus 4. So that becomes 6 plus -4. And trust me, sometimes, looking at this, you kind of like, what's the point? I could have just said 6 minus 4 is 2. But with algebra, the way that algebra works, it becomes very valuable to kind of look at math this way. Okay, so 6 plus -4. And again, you can see that how it works on the number line. So you have 6 plus -4. So 6 plus -4, 4 in the negative direction is 2. And like they said, apply rules 1, 2, and 3. So all they're saying really with that is just remember, if you have this is applying rule, I think number 2, which is when you add numbers with opposite signs, subtract the one with the lesser absolute value from the one of the greater absolute value, and then assign the sign of the greater number to your answer. So that's 6 minus 4 is 2, and it is positive 2. Okay. And if any of this stuff kind of gets a little weird, I really encourage you to go back and like look at it over and over again, and until it makes sense. Because sometimes it's a lot of words, but if you kind of slow it down, then it should, help you to get it pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and go to number 5. Okay, let's see what we got here. Give me a second. All right, number 5, it reads as follows. This says when multiplying or dividing two non-zero numbers with the same sign, multiply or divide their absolute values and keep the answer positive. In other words, a positive times or divided by a positive is a positive, and a negative times or divided by a negative is also a positive. Plain and simple, and I just kind of want to make it real easy for you. So whenever you're multiplying or dividing any numbers, as long as they have the same sign, then the answer is going to be positive. So if you had, so let's say that you had 2 times 3, okay, that's 6. Positive, positive, that's a positive. What about -2 times -3? Okay, you multiply the absolute values times each other, and the answer is positive. So that's 2 times 3 is 6. So if you have 2 positives or you have 2 negatives, the answer is going to be positive, and the multiplication stays the same as always. All right, and so the next one is, of course, as you would probably guess, what do you do when the signs are different? And make sure you understand this, because I have a lot of people who I tutor in Algebra 1 who have issues with negative numbers, and I think they just kind of get mixed up. So like really, really commit these to memory. When you're multiplying or dividing two non-zero numbers with opposite signs, multiply or divide their absolute values, I should say absolute values, and make the number negative. Okay, I mean the answer needs to be negative. In other words, a positive times or divided by a negative is a negative. So if you had -2 times 3, the answer, you're going to multiply their absolute values, which is 2 times 3 is 6, and then the answer is going to be negative. Why? Because the signs are opposite. If this is positive and this is negative, or this is negative and this is positive, the answer is always going to be negative. So again, review that. A positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is a negative. A positive times a negative in any order is going to always be negative. Okay. All right. And then the same if you had 6 divided by 2, 6 divided by -2. So dividing their absolute values, that's going to be 3. And then it's going to be negative because one of these is negative. Okay. All right. Good. Good. Almost done. Almost done. Like I said, don't rush it, until you know that you had this stuff all down pat. All right. Okay, let's see. Sorry about that. All right, so number 7 is 0 divided by any non-zero number is 0. So if you had 0 divided by 8, that's 0. If you had 0 divided by -8, that's 0. If you have 0 divided by 2.56423, that's 0. Any 0 divided by any non-zero number is going to be 0. Very easy. That's pretty straightforward. All right. And then lastly, last but not least, and this is extremely important because it's easy to get this mixed up with the other number 7, what we just talked about. So pay attention. Any number divided by 0 is undefined. Any number divided by 0. Now, we're not saying what we just said, 0 divided by a number. Any number divided by 0. So that's like this. If you have 8 divided by 0, this is what we refer to as undefined. You can't do that. Again, if we're talking about 0, I didn't want that color. But if we're talking about 0 divided by 8, yes, that's 0. But again, 8 divided by 0, any number over 0 or any number divided by 0 is undefined. That's a situation you call undefined. So you cannot do that, okay? Make sure you remember that. If the 0 is in the denominator or something is being divided by 0, undefined, can't do it. All right. So hopefully this was helpful. Make sure if you want a copy of the notes for this that you subscribe at mathswaptutoring.com/subscribe. You can learn in general how to sign up for tutoring at mathswaptutoring.com, or you can just visit calendly.com/mathswaptutoring and then set up your appointment. And I or whoever would be glad to set up the appointment with you and get you signed up for tutoring. You can also call 478-254-0515 to start the process of tutoring. Don't struggle with math on your own. If you're having a hard time, let us help you out. We'll be glad to help you. Okay. All right. Again, hopefully this video has helped you. Oh yeah, and don't forget to subscribe to this Math Swap Tutoring YouTube channel. Okay. All right. Y'all have a good one.